Hello there, this is Howie from epokervideo.com. I'm just starting a brand new video, and what I'm going to be covering is the very basics of a relatively not popular game. My grammar's poor today. A fairly unpopular game, 7 card stud high low. Um, it is a fun game, and it definitely has its place. Um, Basically, just to start off by describing the way that the game is played, it's played just like 7 card studs. So you're going to get 2 cards face down and 1 card face up, and then there's a round of betting, and then you get 3 more cards face up. After each card, there's another round of betting, and then you get a final card face down. Basically, in a 7 card stud high-low, the player with the lowest showing card is forced to bring in the third street bet, and then after that, the player uh, with the best high card brings in every street from there on in. So that the player who has the lead will change from street to street based on how the hands develop. The basic idea for 7 stud high low is the pot will be split between the best high hand and the best low hand. Um, and in order for your hand to qualify for a low, it has to have 5 cards that are 8 or lower. So it's a little bit more of an intriguing game and a little bit more of a thought processing game. It's definitely the kind of game that's a little more difficult to multi-table. Especially if you're just starting, it's pretty tough. Um, and basically, we're always going to look for, this is a bad example of what I'm about to tell you, but for the most part, you always want to be starting with hands that um, have 3 low cards in them. Hands like any 3 cards that are 5 or lower, basically. Because what you want to do in this game is you want to start with the low hand and hopefully let it develop into a scooping hand. And when I say scooping hand, I mean a hand that has potential to win the whole pot, so that has a decent high and a decent low. Anytime you start with a hand that is only good for high, you're basically forcing yourself into probably only getting half of the pot. That being said, there's not always going to be a low hand out there, and there's always going to be a high hand. So um, a high hand does have merit, but the biggest mistake, obviously, beginning players make in this game is playing far too many hands and playing them far too far. A hand like this, for example, Jack 7-4, is trash in this game. It has no low potential and it has no high potential. At the very least, you want to start with 3 cards, as I said, that are decently low. Preferably if they're 3 to a straight or at least 2 to a flush. A hand like, say, 4-3-2 is a great starting hand because it can turn into a hand that can make you the best high and the best low. In high-low, for your low, the straights and flushes do not count against you. So ace, deuce, 3, 4, 5, or the wheel is the absolute nut low and cannot be beaten, can only be tied. And this is a game that has key hand reading skills, and it's also important to pay attention to your opponent's up cards and put them on hands. It's a lot easier to put players on hands when you can see, 4/7 of their hand versus a game like Hold'em or Omaha when you can't see any of their hand. So just in this example, you can tell that obviously this Scurv boy is not going for low. He's going for high. He has a pair 8 showing. He's got a king queen showing. So there's no way here that he has a low draw. This player with ace 3-4, this PGW, is almost definitely going for the low and possibly has a high to go with it. So as you can see here, he has a ace 4-3-5-7 low and took half the pot. And then let me just look at that again. I'll bring it up. And then his opponent ended up with a full house, queens full of 8s, and took the high. So basically, being able to look at and determine whether your opponents are on high draws or low draws, and then acting accordingly is a very important concept in this game. The other thing that's important too is this game's all about kind of punishing players who are drawing. So if you have a made low and there's another person in the pot that has a made high, the idea is what you want to be doing is aggressively betting your hand so that players who are kind of in the middle, who are either on low draws or high draws, are forced to pay the maximum. In lower stakes games like this, you're going to get much more calling, just calling, and not as much raising and three betting. But in higher stakes games, you'll see that the aggression level is much higher, and players will really punish you if you're trying to draw low cards. 7-8-9 is not really a playable hand at a ring game. It is 3 to a straight, and it does have 2 low cards, but the low cards are the absolute worst cards, and the only exception would be if these were all suited. Then it could be playable, because then it has a decent high range, and it also has at least a little bit of potential for a low. So usually when a player calls and they have a low card in their as their door card, more often than not, they are on a low draw, and obviously if a player has a high card, like this player with a queen, for instance, they might have a pair of queens in the hole or 2 other large cards, and they're kind of going for the high. This game, there is a certain aspect of bluffing or semi-bluffing in this game, especially when you're playing a hand and your head's up, but not quite as much as in 7 card stud high. In 7 card stud high, you can definitely represent your hand. Because this is a split game, there's going to be a lot of times when you're just going to be heads up with a player and they're going to be chasing one end and you're kind of going to be chasing the other end. So it's a little more difficult to get opponents to fold. Okay, this is a really good hand. Deuce 3-4, so it's 3 to a straight, it's 2 to a flush, and it's 3 to a low. And what we're going to do here is it was completed to $1 by this player with a deuce showing, and we're going to go ahead and re-raise it. We turned a good low card, so now we have 4 cards to a low, and we still have 3 straight cards, and they turned a high card. And it's important to watch their hand and watch your hand as it develops. We caught a bad card on 5th straight with a queen, and they caught a good card with so we're going to go ahead and check that. And now we caught another bad card with the king, so we're just going to check it also. Chances are they might have a made 8 here, where they have an 8, deuce 3 here, and then they have 2 low cards here. But we are drawing here at a 7 low. So we can go ahead and call here and just hope to catch our low. Unfortunately, we didn't catch our low at all. We started with a really great starting hand, and it turned into a pair of 4s. So we're just going to have to let this hand go. And again, that's the kind of swingy mentality. You can start with your first 3 cards can be golden, and your 4th card can be excellent, and then you end up going brick, 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 and not completing a high or a low. And that's just the way this game goes sometimes.